I want to drive a car. Mukesh insists on being his own master. I will be a motor mechanic, he announces. Do you know anything about cars? I ask. I will learn to drive a car, he answers, looking straight into my eyes. His dream looms like a mirage amidst the dust of streets that fill his town Firozabad, famous for its bangles. Every other family in Firozabad is engaged in making bangles. It is the center of India's glass blowing industry, where families have spent generations working around furnaces, welding glass, making bangles for all the women in the land, it seems. Mukesh's family is among them. None of them know that it is illegal for children like him to work in the glass furnaces with high temperatures, in dingy cells without air and light, and the law, if enforced, could get him and all those 20,000 children out of the hot furnaces, where they slog their daylight hours, often losing the brightness of their eyes. Mukesh's eyes beam as he volunteers to take me home, which he proudly says is being rebuilt. We walk down stinking lanes stocked with garbage, past homes that remain hovels, with crumbling walls, wobbly doors, the windows crowded with families of humans and animals coexisting in primeval state. He stops at the door of one such house, bangs the wobbly iron door with his foot, and pushes it open. We enter a half-built shack. In one part of it, thatched with dead grass, is a firewood stove over which sits a large vessel of sizzling spinach leaves. On the ground, in large aluminium platters, are more chopped vegetables. A frail young woman is cooking the evening meal for the whole family. Through eyes filled with smoke, she smiles. Okay, now we have a intro about Mukesh. Actually, Mukesh belongs to a banker making family. As you know, traditionally the professions are transferred from one generation to another. Now, Mukesh is belonging to such a family, and he is a boy from Firozabad. It is famous for its bangles, and it is the center of India's glass blowing industry. So Mukesh is having a desire of becoming his own master, and he says that he will be a motor mechanic. And the author is inquiring him, do you know anything about cars? He says that he will learn to drive a car, and there was a strong determination in the eyes of Mukesh. Now, when we talk about Firozabad, it's a city where a lot of bangles are made, and the families there have spent generations working around furnaces, welding glass, and making bangles. Now, Mukesh's family, when we talk about them, actually they don't know that it is illegal for children to work in the glass furnaces. They have high temperatures and they are working in dingy cells. There will not be any air, light, and all. And 20,000 such children are working in these hot furnaces. Now, Mukesh was very happy to take the author to his home. And when she was going through the way, she was seeing it was garbage filled, crumbling walls, and moreover, very distracted houses were there on the way. And when she reached Mukesh's house, she is seeing a frail young woman, and she was making the meal for the whole family. And that weak lady was the wife of Mukesh's elder brother. The wife of Mukesh's elder brother. Not much older in years, she has begun to command respect as the Bahu, the daughter-in-law of the house. Already in charge of three men, her husband, Mukesh, and their father. When the older man enters, she gently withdraws behind the broken wall and brings her veil closer to her face, as custom demands. Daughters-in-law must veil their faces before male elders. In this case, the elder is an impoverished banker maker. Despite long years of hard labor, he has first as a tailor, then a banker maker. He has failed to renovate a house, send his two sons to school. All he has managed to do is teach them what he knows, the art of banker making bankers. So now we have an account of Mukesh's family. We are introduced to Mukesh's sister-in-law, and she is not that much aged as well. She is the Bahu, the daughter-in-law of the house, and she is in charge of three men, her husband Mukesh and their father. And when the father-in-law enters, she is withdrawing herself behind the walls and she is covering her face. And it's a tradition. Okay. As far as the elder is an impoverished bangle maker, and even though he worked for long years, he was not able to have a lot of savings. He was not able to make a new house, and he was not able to send his sons to school. All he managed was to teach his two sons the art of bangle making. It is his karam, his destiny, says Mugabe's grandmother, who has watched her own husband go blind with the dust from polishing the glass of bangles. Can a God-given lineage ever be broken? She implies. Born in the caste of bangle makers, they have seen nothing but bangles in the house, in the yard, in every other house, every other yard, every street in Firozabad. Spirals of bangles, sunny gold, paddy green, royal blue, pink, purple, every color born out of the seven colors of the rainbow, lie in mounds in unkempt yards, are piled on four-wheeled handcarts, pushed by young men along the narrow lanes of the shanty town. And in dark hutments, next to lines of flames of flickering oil lamps, sit boys and girls with their fathers and mothers, welding pieces of colored glass into circles of bankers. Their eyes are more adjusted to the dark than to the light outside. That is why they often end up losing their eyesight before they become adults. Now, the grandmother of Mukesh is having a very important remark over there. She says that it is all because of fate, destiny. And according to them, it's a God given profession, and they are not ready to break that lineage, that ancestry. And they are only concerned about bankers. This is the same case of every street in Firozabad. All are involved in glass making industry, and all are just adjusted to the dark than to light outside, because all these children and their parents are working in dingy cells which are devoid of light and air. Savita, a young girl in a draping dress, sits alongside an elderly woman soldering pieces of glass, as her hands move mechanically like the tongs of a machine. I wonder if she knows the sanctity of the bangles she helps make. It symbolizes an Indian woman's suhag, auspiciousness in marriage. It will dawn on her suddenly one day when her head is strapped with the red wheel, her hands dyed red with henna, and red bangles rolled onto her wrists. She will then become a bride, like the old woman beside her who became on many years ago. She still has bangles on her wrist, but no light in her eyes. A वक्त पर खाना भी नहीं खाया, she says, in a voice drained of joy. She has not enjoyed even one full meal in her entire lifetime. That's what she has reaped. Her husband, an old man with a flowing beard, says, I know nothing except bangles. All I have done is make a house for the family to live in. Hearing him, one wonders if he has achieved what many have failed in their lifetime. He has a roof over his head. Now they are moving to another girl. She is Savida, a young girl, and she is helping an elderly woman make bangles. And the author is wondering whether she knows the purity of the bangle she was making. Actually, this North Indian people, know, they have the tradition of wearing this red and white bangles, and it denotes that she is a married woman and all. Okay, and we are moving to Savida's grandmother, and she says that she was not able to enjoy even one full meal in her entire lifetime. And her husband was also an old man, and he all he managed to do was to build a home, a house for the family to live. The cry of not having money to do anything except carry on the business of making bangles, not even enough to eat, rings in every home. The young men echo the lament of their elders. Little has moved with time, it seems, in Firozabad. Years of mind-numbing toil have killed all initiative and the ability to dream. Why not organize yourselves into a cooperative? I ask a group of young men who have fallen into the vicious circle of middlemen who trap their fathers and forefathers. Even if we get organized, we are the ones who will be hauled by the police, beaten and dragged to jail for doing something illegal, they say. There is no leader among them, no one who could help them see things differently. Their fathers are as tired as they are. They talk endlessly in a spiral that moves from poverty to apathy, to greed and to injustice. Listening to them, I see two distinct worlds. one of the family caught in a web of poverty. Now the author says that hearing the old man was quite wonder because he has at least achieved a roof over his head. Now, in all the families of Firozabad, this was the situation. All of them were involved in the business of making bankers and they were having utter poverty. All were lamenting of the things they were not having. Now, the author is asking one of the young men about a cooperative society, and he says that then actually they have been cheated by the middlemen, okay, the middle brokers and all, and if they organize also, they will be caught by the police, beaten up, and charged for something that they haven't done. So things were so bad for them and there is no leaders to help them out. So the author says that she was able to see two different worlds. One was the family which was caught in a web of poverty. Okay, all families were experiencing poverty, and they were talking about a very cyclic process: poverty to apathy to greed and to injustice. They were victims of poverty. Apathy means insensibility, and greed and injustice, burdened by the stigma of caste in which they are born. The other, a vicious circle of the sahukars, the middlemen, the policemen, the keepers of law, the bureaucrats, and the politicians. Together they have imposed the baggage on the child that he cannot put down. Before he is aware, he accepts it as naturally as his father. To do anything else would mean to dare, and daring is not part of his growing up. When I sense a flash of it in Mukesh, I am cheered. I want to be a motor mechanic, he repeats. He will go to a garage and learn, but the garage is a long way from his home. I will walk, he insists. Do you also dream of flying a plane? He is suddenly silent. No, he says, staring at the ground. In his small murmur, there is an embarrassment that has not yet turned into regret. He is content to dream of cars that he sees hurtling down the streets of his town. Few airplanes fly over Firozabad. Now, the two words that the author sees is the families that are surrounded by poverty, and there is a stigma, a scar of the caste in which they are born. Okay, it's an age-old tradition that if your father is a barber, then you should also follow that profession. And the other world is a group of cruel people which include the money lenders, the policemen, the middlemen, the brokers, the administrators, the law people, the politicians, all who are misusing and exploiting this banker makers. And nobody is dared, okay, nobody is having that courage to question them and all. And when Mukesh was having that dream of having a motor car, okay, driving a motor car and all, the author really feels so happy about it. And she's asking him from where you will learn this. He says that there's a garage, there's a mechanic, he has his own plans to learn to drive. And she's asking him whether he likes to fly a plane, and he was disappointed. He's looking at ground in a quiet embarrassment, and he still dream of cars as he is moving, seeing it moving around him. Okay, on a very positive note, on Mukesh dream of becoming a motor mechanic, the chapter is ending. And in this chapter, we learned about two children, Sahab and Mukesh.